Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Dynasty Drip today. We're going to be going over some Dynasty sells, basically coming off week 2 of the NFL season. I think we have a little more knowledge than we maybe would have this off season. So I'm going to give you guys 5 players I'm looking to sell in my Dynasty leagues and what I'm trying to sell them for. If you are new to the channel, make sure to like the video, shoot me a comment, hit subscribe. All of these things really help me grow. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, maybe by the end of the year, end of the NFL season. Honestly, any sort of growth is good, and I really appreciate you guys checking out the channel. But let's get today's video kicked off. The number one sell for me in Dynasty, I talked about this summer. I'm doubling down, man. I got some hate this summer, but I am just over the Kaleb Williams experience personally. I'm trying to sell him if I own him in Dynasty. Luckily, I do not own him, but if I'm you guys, I am trying to sell him. 2 weeks into the season, I don't know if he is the right match for Ben Johnson. You know, Ben Johnson wants a guy like Jared Goff who runs the plays. He doesn't go off script. He hits his players in time, lets them make the play. Whereas I think with Kaleb Williams, now I'm not saying he couldn't develop into a good NFL quarterback, but I think he's a head down when the rush comes, run away, try to make a play kind of player. And I don't really know if it's going to work out with Ben Johnson. So for me, I don't really see Kaleb Williams' value growing this year. I think it could continue to fall a little bit. Now, maybe he gets a chance somewhere else, and maybe I'm wrong and they turn it around, but I just don't know. The way it started, I am going to be really risk averse on this one. My trade idea here today is, can I just pivot from Kaleb Williams to CJ Stroud, who, he's QB 12 on KTC. Kaleb Williams is QB 11. So if you find a guy in your league that just likes Kaleb Williams more than CJ Stroud, I'm going to take the safer asset. I think they are kind of opposite in the sense that, maybe CJ Stroud's never going to be QB2, QB3, unless he has some sort of super crazy touchdown Joe Burrow last year-esque season. But CJ Stroud's a very good NFL quarterback. CJ Stroud is going to be around and a starting quarterback for your dynasty team for the next 10 years, which is something we cannot guarantee with Kaleb Williams. I mean, he may have more upside due to his legs. Maybe he does have some freak ceiling as a dynasty player that we don't really or haven't seen yet. But I'm going to take the safe one here. I am selling Kaleb Williams after week 2. I just don't want him on my team anymore. It would stress me out that all he's going to do is lose value. So I'm buying CJ Stroud with Kaleb Williams if I can. Next one, and this one may be a little less controversial after his little kickoff mishap in week 2, but I'm selling Kaleb Johnson. I don't fully know if his value has fallen as far as it's going to, but nothing is pointing towards Kaleb Johnson being extremely involved this year with Aaron Rodgers. Now, maybe he will be more involved next year, but they did re-sign Jaylen Warren to a couple-year deal, and Jaylen Warren just looks to be the starting running back on this team. And even if you're like, well, maybe Kaleb Johnson can work his way in, he's not even the second running back on this team right now, which is Kenny Gainwell. So for me, most dynasty managers that drafted Kaleb Johnson were probably near the end of their first round. He was going 110 through kind of 2-2 in that range. So most likely you were a contender last year. If you were drafting at 110, 111, 112, you took Kaleb Johnson hoping to get some immediate production out of him. So for me, can I pivot to an Alvin Kamara, a guy who's going to give me immediate 2-year production as a dynasty RB instead of playing the risky game with Kaleb Johnson? Now, as Kaleb Johnson most likely continues to fall on KTC in the dynasty ranks, maybe he will become a buy at some point because I don't think we've seen the last of him. Rookies don't always peak, and they don't peak at week 2 of the NFL season. I just don't really like the trajectory here, and I'm just going to play the game that I think Kaleb Johnson is going to fall more, and I want to get out while I can still get a usable RB2 for my dynasty team in Alvin Kamara. Next one, going to be a wide receiver. Sorry, getting a sip of my spin drift, guys. Chris Olave, man, I get he's young. I know he has a lot of believers in the dynasty community. But for me, he doesn't really even look like any sort of alpha wide receiver 1 on the Saints team right now, let alone he's got Spencer Rattler throwing to him. Yes, obviously he has Spencer Rattler throwing to him, but Rattler's making Juwan Johnson usable. Rattler found Rashid Shaheed in the end zone last week. And the fact that it's already been 2 weeks and Olave seems to basically just be non-existent doesn't really give me any faith that he's going to rise in the dynasty rankings in the coming months. Where the guy I'm trying to sell him for right now, Zach Charbonnet, I think could rise a little bit. Right now, they have, Charbonnet and Walker as this kind of duo. And Charbonnet looks pretty good. And I just don't know if Olave is going to hold that value. To me, there's a lot better and safer assets you could go get than Chris Olave at his current value and wide receiver 34 on KTC. So I'm not going to overthink this one. I think you pivot from Olave to some other asset. Charbonnet is an option, but anything in this range, I think would be a good outcome. Or, maybe we can add on top of Chris Olave to tier up into a different tier of wide receiver. Can we tier up into Zay Flowers, Ricky Pearsall, even someone like Devonta Smith, who has had a slow start, much safer than Chris Olave. He's at least paired to a good elite offense there. And just because I spoke about buying Zach Charbonnet in the last trade, I think I'm selling Kenneth Walker. Now, I still believe Walker has some talent. I just think this is basically going to be a 50-50 split. And Charbonnet is the cheaper piece here. So if we can still sell Kenneth Walker at almost elite prices to get something potentially elite in the future for our dynasty team, I think that's a trade we should be looking into doing. My idea here, can I tier up from Kenneth Walker by adding a third-round pick to go get RJ Harvey, a guy who I think is starting a little slow, but has made some plays in the Denver offense that I believe enough his role can increase as the season goes on. RJ Harvey down at RB18 here. It's kind of what he started as. I think he's fallen a little bit. Obviously, Kenneth Walker has fallen too, but same thing I've talked about with these previous two players. I just think Kenneth Walker could fall even more for your dynasty team, which is why I'm looking to move him right now. Now, this guy I want to talk about, I don't know if it's an obvious sell. Maybe it is with Burrow going down, but I don't think Chase Brown will maintain his RB9 upside or rank in the dynasty community with Joe Burrow going down. We saw it last week or week 2, this week, whatever you want to call it. It just didn't work out for Chase Brown if they're not going to put up all those points or have the game script to do so. Now he's going to have some good games. He's not going to fall to like RB24. I totally understand that. He's not going that far. But if you want to play the market and you want to play the game, I think you sell Chase Brown now for what you can get. Now, I think there's two options if you have Chase Brown and you're selling him. Option one here on the screen, you sell him for picks in the 27 draft. Can I get a first and a second? I think that's a good return. I would be willing to do that deal. I'm not taking one first for him. So if you're getting lowballed like that, he's young enough. He's only 25. He's going to be on the Bengals still for a couple more years. I think you hold pat, but if you can get a first and a second, I would be willing to consider moving Chase Brown for that. The next option that I would consider doing is if you're a contender. Now, that would be more of the rebuilder one. Let me go back to that first and a second future draft class. Now, if you're a contender, I think you got to take a pick at a guy in his range, maybe a little lower, try to get a little capital on top. James Cook's a good example. Derrick Henry in a pick, Alvin Kamara in a pick, to use those examples from earlier, Charbonnet in a first or something like that, where you're tearing down, you're still getting a usable asset as a running back because you're a contender, and you're not letting Chase Brown kind of fall in value, which I think he's going to do. I'm not saying I'm going to go buy James Cook everywhere, but he's a solid player for your dynasty team, and he's probably going to outscore Chase Brown the rest of the year if Burrow misses as much time as everyone is saying. But thank you guys for joining me for my Dynasty Sells episode. Wouldn't be surprised to get some hate in the comments. I get it. I own some of these players too. I just think now is the time to get out before their value falls even more. If you guys learned anything on the channel today, if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you can. It helps so much. I appreciate you guys, and peace.